Hello and welcome to Higher Thinking on Higher Ed. I am Charlene Carrington of Content Strong Communications, the communications and marketing partner of choice for universities and colleges and nonprofits. And today I am excited to continue diving into the trends and the challenges encountered by leaders in higher education. And I am honored to welcome Dr. Richard Bailey to the hot seat today. Rick, can I call you Rick?
Please, yes, yes.
Good, good. Rick became president of Southern Oregon University in 2022 after a distinguished Air Force career and a successful presidency at Northern New Mexico College. At SOU, he led bold initiatives that stabilized finances, expanded partnerships, and spurred record enrollment growth. Thank you so much again for bringing your expertise to this conversation.
No,
How
thank
are
you,
you doing?
Charlene. Thank you. It's an honor to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, you know what? Usually I like to start off with a little bit of a context. And I think, certainly off camera, you and I had a little bit of a chat of kind of what's going on in your world right now. So, my first question really is kind of, I'm opening the floor to you. Give me a little bit of a sense of kind of what's going on in your ecosystem. Tell me a little bit about your role, obviously, as president. You've been president there for a few years and kind of how you're navigating everything, operational realities, strategic direction of SOU.
Yeah, thanks, Charlene. So let me start with, and this is going to sound syrupy sweet. I will say that every single day that I've been here, a little over 3.5 years now, every single day has been a gift. So let me start with that. I recognize how fortunate I am to be here, in this amazing place and serving with these amazing people. Our context is really challenging. And I also know that, all of your listeners, all of your viewers, that they all understand this is just a really interesting time for higher education. That's putting it
Yeah.
so lightly.
Yeah.
Um, we have some challenges here in Oregon. In a very progressive state, public universities are not and haven't been a priority, in
Right.
terms of funding. That's not an indictment on our leaders at all. It's just we're just not the priority right now. And so we have this ranking now of 46th. Oregon now ranks 46th in the country in terms of state support for public universities. That's real for us.
Right.
The federal government is more of a puzzle. And obviously, I think a lot of people see the headlines and institutions that have been directly targeted by the current administration. And by
Yeah.
the way, I'm not going to say anything partisan really or political. It's not
Right.
about that. But there's certainly interesting times in terms of the federal government's relationship to universities. For a school like Southern Oregon University, even though we are not necessarily, in the headlines of, institutions that are being directly in
Targeted.
confrontation with the federal government, we're
Right.
certainly collateral damage from it. This latest comprehensive bill, with the approach to federal work study and student loans and programs like TRIO and McNair and other things that really LBJ era programs that really help low income students.
Right.
I think that has created so much uncertainty that it's forced institutions like ours to really look at what our future looks like and to make sure that we are bracing ourselves for the storm, that it's not about if it's coming, it's when it's coming.
Right.
So we've taken some pretty bold steps here at SOU. In fact, since the time you and I first met in setting up for this conversation, we got together with our faculty union. We kind of looked at the numbers. We looked at where the federal government is headed, and we said, "Hey, we have to transform now if we're going to be
Right.
to withstand and weather the storms that are coming." So we made a very bold decision to enact something in our contract with the faculty union called exigency, which is a scary word. But by the way, I know your viewers and your listeners know it's not bankruptcy,
Right.
not closing the doors, but it is a mechanism that allows us to transform as an institution. It gives the president some pretty extraordinary authority to do the things that we need to do. What I would say is, the fact that we have done this in partnership with our faculty and our faculty union is extraordinary. And so that's a testament to them and their leadership and their love for this university, that we're actually doing this together as a team.
I think that's, first of all, thank you for sharing that. Number one. And number two, you're not, and I think you addressed this, you're not the only institution in the midst of this, I'm going to call it
Right.
fire right now, like this chaos right now, and just
Yeah.
seeing how you're responding. I think once again, you're not the only institution who's realized we have to do things and we have to kind of act right now. Certainly, you touched on that, this idea that now you've been almost empowered with new powers to be able to do different things because everyone's kind of behind you and saying we have to transform immediately to kind of save and ramp up and build and,
Right.
and work on this institution together, which I think is a good thing. I mean, certainly you touched on some of the broader sector shifts and how, those kind of external, certainly political factors and stuff are impacting your institution and other institutions. I mean, the so many different questions come to mind for me, questions that I did not, plan on necessarily acting, but asking. One of the things is, how is all of this impacting your strategy? And certainly you can tell me a little bit about what your goals are in general. Certainly every time I talk to an institution, their goals are always, we want to support students and we want to attract students and we want to, make sure our partners are blah, 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 all those things. Thinking about those in the background, kind of the typical goals that institutions have and who they're typically serving, how does this big exigency shift impact the way you're able to communicate with some of these stakeholders, impact the way you're able to kind of strengthen your brand and have those conversations with parents, with students who are
Yeah.
incoming, with people who are alumni, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, it's a great question, Charlotte. So let me actually start with the last part of your question first.
Yeah.
And that is because it's super important. It's the outreach of for people who don't know what exigency is.
Uh-huh.
Exigency sounds like existential and
Right.
emergency, right? Those
Right.
are two really, really bad.
Right.
So part of it is just getting ahead of the messaging, right? And making sure that for students, hey, we're still going to thrive. We're still going to be of service to you. We're still going to be, and we're actually going to put the institution in a better place.
Right.
We're being really aggressive at sharing that with current students, prospective students, family members, alums, donors, business leaders, government officials. All of that has been pretty aggressive, and actually, I think we've done a pretty good job of that. But it's also still something that can be misinterpreted. So we're always
Right.
mindful of. Um, the other part of your question is really about how does this fit within our strategic plan?
Exactly.
And the timing of this was really interesting because we have in January I will have been here 4 years, and it was really time for us to kind of start looking at updating our strategic plan. Um, and so we started that process in earnest late last year and really started ramping up this spring. And the draft, it's still waiting to be formally adopted by the board. The board will make a decision on that in October. But it really has three big muscle movements. And there are the answers to three questions. What does it look like when students are thriving? What does it look like when team members, faculty and staff are thriving? And what does it
Right.
look like when the institution as a whole are thriving? And by the way,
Right.
that's not unique, right? And a lot of strategic plans do very similar things. But the thing that came out in our process was, and we coined it the acronym, but it's FSS, and
Okay.
that stands for fix some stuff, and or you
Ah,
can insert another S word if you want, but um,
right.
it's really in order for us to thrive, in order for
Right.
students to thrive and faculty and staff to thrive, institution to thrive, there's likely sometimes there are obstacles that are in your way. And so, in order to move toward thriving, you also have to acknowledge, hey, here are some obstacles that if we don't remove those obstacles, we're never going to get to this. And let's just own that those are obstacles that we have to hit head on and attack and do
Right.
something about. Well, um, this latest crisis and what we're enduring. By the way, this is the second real big crisis that I've had to that we have had to approach just in my short time here.
And you're
Because the
right.
first one happened on the third day on the job, and a recognition that, oh my gosh, we really have to change this fiscal model. Uh,
Right.
so it was a recognition that in my almost 4 years here, there are four things that we have never been able to invest in. And if I look back as an amateur historian of our institution, I don't think we've been able to invest in them in 20 years. Four things. One is enrollment. So yes, we have the demographic cliff that I know a lot of your listeners and viewers are
Talking about.
smart about. Um, but we haven't invested in how we bring new students into the institution. It doesn't mean that
Right.
we have to grow. Doesn't mean we have to grow, but we certainly need to keep the pipeline fresh.
Right. Of
And by the
course.
way, I push back on the demographic cliff being an automatic realization that there's no more opportunities for us to bring more students in. And I say that because Oregon ranks 43rd in the country in terms of the percentage of students who go from high school into college. So even with the
Right.
demographic cliff, there are so many Oregonians that universities aren't serving now, right? So
Right.
there's still an opportunity to move. So that's one, enrollment. Number two is student success. We have all kinds of great ideas and things to try and things that can help keep students on the pathway, but we never have the money to invest in them, right? Even
Right.
little things. We should be entrepreneurial in the way we think about student success, and we should be able to use strategic resources, precious resources, to invest in.
Right. Of
Number
course.
three is talent management. So I talk about our faculty and staff, and they're amazing, and we have beautiful relationships, and they're amazing human beings. They are not with us because of the compensation we provide. They are with us despite the
Right.
compensation we provide. So we have to do a better job of really making compensation attractive and competitive for faculty and staff. And then number
Hmm.
four, not as attractive or as a bumper sticker, as sexy as the other
Right.
three, but it sure is for me, and that is reserves. We have to be able to invest in reserves so that we can
Right.
weather storms when they come. And
When they
those are
come.
four things that we've never been able to invest in. And as an institution, and any institution that's embarking on a strategic plan, the key is to move from defense to offense, right? And
Right.
actually start to become more proactive in the
Exactly.
things that you do and position the institution so that you're actually leading and moving forward. Well, you have to be able to invest in those four things in order to do that. So part of our transformation really complements the strategic plan because it's going to help remove obstacles and allow us to go on offense, certainly in those four areas, to really supercharge the strategic plan, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And as you were naming the four things, like those things seem critical to me. They seem vital, they seem important, they seem like what, kind of where a growing institution, a healthy institution, if I can use that word loosely, would want to be focused on. Where has the institution, and this is likely even before your time, where were the biggest efforts the institution invested in, let's say, because those things seem like the top to me, but what really was the
Yeah.
focus before?
So, yeah, it's a really interesting question. And I have to be careful because it's not an indictment on anyone who came before. I
Previous leader, of course, of
I think
course.
the leaders who sat in this chair before me were all incredible leaders and thoughtful and really good at what they did. So I don't know that it's about their decision making necessarily.
Right.
I think it is. I think it is that we are part of even though we are an independent public
Right.
university,
Right.
so we're not part of a system, an organized system, we're still part of a system in the sense that
Yeah, the sector in itself. Right.
exactly right. And I think we had to recognize that that system, the way it's designed,
Mm-hmm.
is broken in some ways, right? And
Right.
again, that's not because of malfeasance
Right.
or willful negligence. But in order for us to really take charge of our future, we have to do exactly that. We have to take charge of it. One of my favorite quotes comes from a futurist named Alan Kay, who once said that the best way to predict the future is to invent it.
Right.
And if we're going to embody that, then we have to look at that system and we have to understand, okay, here's the environment in which we're operating, as complex and as dynamic as it is. And we have to decide to take the steps to actually control the future. We have to be the architects of that
Right.
future, knowing that we can't fully change that system, right?
Right.
So So to answer your question bluntly, I think what we have done as an institution for 20 or 30 years is basically done everything we can just to stay at the waterline, right?
Yeah.
Just to keep our heads barely above the waterline. Um,
Reactive, not proactive, as you rightfully said.
yeah, it's
Right.
not. And again, not anyone's fault, but the only way to really get out of that is you have to transform the institution and really do the bold things that are complicated and hard and unpopular and but you have to do those things so that you're not putting more and more on the backs of students, right? That can't
Right.
be the solution to these
Exactly.
problems. So that's the work that we're undertaking now.
So what, and this is a tough question to ask you, knowing about this, I'm going to call it transformation that you're undergoing right now.
Yeah.
What's working for you? What's not working for you? Obviously, I think you think that this is something that is going to work for you in the future. What has been working surprisingly well, let's say, thus far, and where, I mean, I think have a good sense of where you've hit kind of your biggest challenges, but maybe there's something else you want to elaborate on there.
Yeah. So the things that I don't want to change at all,
Right.
there is and this is going to sound super gratuitous. So apologies in
No, say it.
advance to you and your
Say it.
listeners. And um, so so Southern Oregon University is a really special place. I know I'm biased. I brag about our university for a living, right? So yes, I'm totally biased. Um, but even if I were looking objectively, there is a there is a passion and a beauty and a love and a warmth and belonging that I've never seen anywhere. Not just in higher ed, like I've not seen anywhere. Our faculty and staff, let me put it this way, every day that I've been here, every single day, I see something that I haven't seen before. Maybe it's the way that a faculty member takes time out to do one-on-one coaching for a student, or
Right.
a way a staff member bends over backwards in service to students, the way students actually support each other, the way they all respect that we come from so many different places and different perspectives, but all of us are united in a deep rooted belief that everyone is deserving of love and respect. And
Hmm.
it's universal here. Um, so no matter who you are, no matter what your last name is, no matter where you come from, no matter what you look like, no matter how you identify, no matter who you love, no matter who you voted for, everyone is deserving of love and respect. And we walk that walk here. So as we go through this transformation, it's okay, let's not do anything with that. Like
Right.
let's promote the heck out of that, and keep on that track. And recognize that, as a public regional university, we cannot be as comprehensive as we once were. And
Right.
we're going to have to be more focused, and we're going to have to be more responsive, and we're going to have to be more resilient. I think you can do both of those things at the same time. And that's certainly what our goal is now.
So what? So you said, and I think that's a really good point. This idea that you can't be everything to everyone all the time, and typically, and this goes beyond once again, the post-secondary sector. This is a business issue as well.
Sure.
Trying to do too many things, trying to talk to too many people, trying to satisfy everything. That's a sure way to fail, right?
Yeah.
So really understanding, as you rightfully said, we want to focus on these few things and do these few things really, really well. What are those few things?
Yeah. So certainly it's the personal service, right?
Right.
If you walk on
Experience.
our campus right now, and by the way, I hope you come visit. Um, but you and I could walk out here on the campus, and we could randomly select any student, and they will tell you, Charlene, that there are faculty and staff members who know them by their first name, right? That there is a
Unprecedented.
personal connection.
Right.
To me, that is magic. That's secret sauce, right?
Right.
But so that's the thing that we do really well. Um, where where I think there's room for us to improve is like you said, we can't be all things to all people, and we spread ourselves out so thin. Part of
Right.
the challenge of the academy, so this isn't just SOU. I think this is a challenge across colleges and universities around the country, is that we are really good at starting things and we are terrible at stopping things.
Yeah.
Right? We are really good at, oh, you know what? Here's a new idea. And we're going to do this new course or this new program, or and we think that's going to draw new students. And okay. And by the way, all of those start from a good-hearted place
Yeah.
and a good-minded place, right? Hearts and minds in the right place, North Star, trying to do the right thing for students in the university. But when you do that 1,000 times,
Yeah.
especially for a school our size, and if funding or enrollment doesn't double, or if there's not some sea change in terms of how you're resourced, well, then all you're really doing is spreading yourself thinner and thinner, right?
Yeah.
And to the point at where you are comprehensive, if that's the
Right.
word, but you're not optimizing the way you should be serving, right?
Right.
If I don't have a dollar to spend on an idea that can help us increase our first year retention rates or
Mm-hmm.
increase graduation rates, then that's an obstacle, right? Then that's something that, because of the way we've handled things, we've not been able to do it. So where the things that I don't want to change, I don't want to change the way our faculty and staff are of service to students, but I want to take care of them better, right? So
Right.
that they continue to be supported. I don't want to take away the magic that happens in our classroom. We have ridiculously good faculty members, but I
Mm-hmm.
also need to recognize that we can't teach everything.
Yeah.
Right? And we should be able to rely on other, this is going to sound blasphemous. We should be able to rely on other institutions
Right.
to teach some of that
It's
stuff.
not blasphemous. It's not
Yeah.
blasphemous. It's
It's
not. Yeah.
okay. We don't need to be in a system
You're right.
to use our colleagues to help our students, and certainly in ways that help our students stay on a pathway that isn't extended, right? So that keeps
Right.
them on a reasonable timeline to the graduation stage. Um, so the last thing I'll say about this is we need a culture shift here. And part of this transformation is, we are going from, when we started this transformation, we had 38 majors.
Mm-hmm.
And I think by the time we are complete with this transformation, we will probably be somewhere in the mid 20s in terms of that's how dramatic
Right.
this change will be. And I also don't want to sugarcoat it. When an institution does that, there are really good human beings who are losing their jobs and
Right.
who will have to move their families and go somewhere. And that's awful. So I don't want to discount that. Like that, we need, as an institution, to be respectful of the effect that this is having on
Right.
people we love and care about,
Real people. Right.
real people. Um, and once we are through with that transformation, the strategy piece is going to be set, but the
Mm-hmm.
cultural shift has to happen in conjunction, and the cultural shift will go something like this. We are still going to be an institution that depends on risk tolerance. So
Right.
we need a culture that allows us to be entrepreneurial, right? We're doing that as an institution. We're doing that.
Right.
And we can talk all day about some of the interesting revenue ideas and other things that we've started to put in place since I've been here. And that's good, right? We need to be entrepreneurial in the way we think about things. And we should be entrepreneurial in the way that we think about curriculum and student support and all these other things. What we need, though, is a culture of accountability to go with it. And that is, hey, we're going to try something. We need to answer 5 questions. So what is the goal? What are the resources that we're going to have to spend to do it? What is an expectation? What's the goal that we think we can hit?
Right.
What is a
Measurable.
reasonable timeline in order to hit that mark? And along with that, what are the milestones along the way where we're going to check? And then
Mhm.
maybe the most important question, this is the fifth question, what are we going to commit to right now if we don't hit that mark? Like, let's all agree that this is what we're going to do if we don't hit that mark. And that's okay if we don't hit it. We'll try something else.
Right.
If we can really embody that as a culture and have that culture of accountability, then 20 years from now, 30 years from now, the person that's sitting in my seat isn't going to have to do what we're doing now.
Right. And that is probably a culture shift that, of course, is happening at your institution, but likely needs to happen across the board for a lot of institutions, particularly because when when you look at the way, as you rightfully said earlier, the sector is set up and each institution within it, sometimes it takes so long for things to happen because there are so many levels and so many people have
Right.
to talk to and so many stakeholders. So exactly that, as you mentioned, you start this one thing and this thing you do it with a great wonderful hearts and minds, great intentions, and you get it going and it keeps on going because people don't want to spend the time to be able to say, or you take that risk or take that step, understanding what some of the I don't want to use the word backlash, but consequences are at the end of the day if you remove them, if you pull the plug after them. But there's a
Yeah.
reason to do that, right?
Yeah. No, yeah, I think you put it perfectly. It's in some ways, it's like it's um if you're sitting with a pot of boiling water on your stove, um, if you lock that lid down on it, and don't let some of that pressure relieve itself once in a while. Like my mom is her family comes from Italy, and so she makes an all day sauce, meatballs, all that. It's so ridiculously good. Um, but she always puts the lid on with a slight crack.
Of course.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, eventually it's going to build pressure and it's going to blow that lid right off, right?
Right.
I think the same is true for universities. I think you've got to have a culture of accountability to at least acknowledge when something doesn't hit the mark. It's okay. It doesn't mean that everything has completely failed, but you have to be willing to change course. And you have to be willing to do the things and the painful things to acknowledge it and take those resources and now place them strategically in ways that you can try the next thing. And that's how an institution kind of moves forward.
Right. So I think what I liked about all of what you said there is just in my brain, the first thing I thought of was this idea of like the 5-star restaurant, right? When you go to a 5-star restaurant and they create those dishes for you, there aren't 700 different things on the menu. There are 5 things on the menu, and those are the 5 things that they're going to do perfectly, exceptionally well, and you're going to walk away and think about the wonderful experience you had eating that 5-course meal that was perfect and amazing. And what I think about that and this idea of changing the mindset and the culture at your institution, really understanding that piece that we want to be amazing at these things, we want to be known for these things, and we want to serve this particular community. And I think about what you talked about, this idea of the magic you create in terms of experience, and that's
Right.
what you're really known for. How do you measure that? All of those things, like this idea of creating magic, this idea of, eventually seeing that culture shift makes me think about how are you going to measure, what are the metrics going to look like for you? How are you going to measure and really see, we're hitting those goals?
Yeah, it's a great question. So sometimes, I mean, you can look at the things that are external that all of us get evaluated on, right?
Right,
So this is going to sound like a two-dimensional answer, but let me give it to you anyways. So we're graded on um, 6-year graduation rate. Like
right,
how many students get to a bachelor's degree in 6 years? How many students who start with us in September are with us the following September?
right,
Right. And by the way, those numbers for us for 20 years sit right around the same, like there hasn't been some huge leap, right?
right.
Um, and again, like there's life, there's other things that that are part of this. Got it. But I know that there are likely things that we can do when we can start investing in those 4 buckets
Right.
um,
To push stuff.
to move the needle, right? And so let's measure things like first year retention rate. Let's measure things like 6-year graduation. By the way, and the other thing, Charlene, is some of that stuff we're not going to notice right away, right? Some of
Yeah,
that stuff, there's a lag, right? It's going to take some time, but we still have to be willing to invest in ways, knowing that we might not see the results for a while. Um, The other part is, when you talk about, okay, you know what, we're going to be a school that does these things really well, right? Our by student interest and population,
Hmm.
our three biggest academic programs are business, psychology, education.
Right.
And yet, where we sit in Southern Oregon, um, a lot of people think about us as an art school, and we are an art school. We have a fabulous theater program and music production. We have one of the top 30 film schools in North America. Like all that stuff is great. And by the way, that's closely in that same, in the fourth or fifth category. But because we sit in Ashland, Oregon, which is home to the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, like everyone just says, "Oh, that's the art school." Well, that's it's reductionist to say that because we're actually a lot of
Right.
things.
Right.
But here's what and especially as the president, and so for any of your faculty who are listening to this, I think they will very much agree with me. Faculty don't love it when presidents say, "Hey, here's the curriculum we're going to do,"
Yeah.
because that's really the dominion of the faculty. Um, what I have been very careful, even in the middle of this transformation, to say is not here's what we are going to be known for academically. I've been very careful not to say that. I think that's something that we together with the faculty decide together. Like this
Right.
is where we're headed. But the other thing is that we are in such a, and I said it before, we are in such a complex and constantly evolving environment that
Right.
we need to be very careful not to say, okay, we're business psychology education. That's our focus. Instead, what I've
Right.
said is the vision, as we kind of build the vision for the transformation, we're going to be three things. We're going to be more focused,
Hmm.
so we're not going to be as comprehensive. We are going to be more responsive. So we are going to look at the economic realities in our region and the state of Oregon. We're going to look at workforce needs in the region and the state, and we're going to make sure that we are responsive to those
Bonding to them.
realities
Right.
and adaptive enough to shift as they evolve. And then three, we're going to be more resilient and more resilient in the way in which we are moving from defense to offense, investing in those four areas
Right.
and allowing us to really now be proactive in implementing our strategic designs.
That's a huge answer there, Rick. And I think I'm going to sit with it for a bit because I think you've touched on so many really interesting things there, certainly throughout the entire conversation. The one thing I would ask you, and I think I have a good sense of what your goals are going to be over the next few months. You've certainly talked about them in terms of what your strategic priorities are going to be and how you're definitely the 3 points you just made. My last question is always the magic wand question. And people always, I get a bit of mixed reviews. Some people are, I mean, I don't know how to answer this question. And you're going to have a good answer. I know. If I give you this magic wand, pretend my pen is a magic wand, and you can take it and you can wave it right now and you could, change or remove one barrier, one challenge that's in your way right now. You can make it disappear instantly. What would that be and why? What would that mean for your ecosystem?
So you're right. It's a really good question. Can I'm going to give you a bizarre answer.
Give
Um,
it.
um, this is going to sound this is going to sound super crazy. If you and I had met 3 years ago and you would ask me that question, I would have a fundamentally different question. And I'll confess to you. So on my third day on the job here, we had a board of trustees meeting. We looked at, and I had really seen for the first time the depth or the gravity of the financial crisis that we were in.
Right. Right.
And that led to a multi-year a process called SOU Forward, in which we eliminated 13% of our workforce, and it was horrible, and
Horrible.
clearly
Horrible.
really only set the stage for now this next phase that we're already going through
Right.
again, right? Just 2 years later.
Right.
But 3 years ago, if you had given me that wand, I would have, I would have said, you know what the magic wand is, and I had no kidding figured it out mathematically. Hey, if someone comes and gives me $400 million one-time gift, I'll put that in an endowment. It's going to spin out 4%. It basically solves our structural deficit, and we're just going to kind of move forward. And this is going to sound super controversial. Um, it wouldn't have been the best strategic outcome for the institution.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I'm probably going to take a lot of heat for a comment like that. I don't mean that. I don't mean that it's good that we let go of people. Let me be very
Right,
clear
right,
about
of
that.
course.
But that process and how we went through it, and even what we're going through now, as painful as it is, there is the faculty senate, the staff assembly, student leadership, our staff union, the faculty union. All of us are. This crisis has forged these very trusting relationships, trusting
Right,
relationships by groups who don't always trust each other in institutions
right,
around the country, right?
right.
And so we had to go through it in order for those relationships to gel. And so what I would want to do is take your magic
Now,
wand now and actually ask you if I have to use it now or if I can wait for 3 months and then waive it. And here's why.
wait.
Um, when we get through this transformation, and we are now a place where we are more focused, we're more responsive and more resilient as an
Resilient.
institution. And now you give me that magic wand. Or now there's someone who comes in with $400 million and now we put that in, and now that's an endowment that's spinning off. All that does now is supercharge
Right,
what we need to do. And by the way, what I wouldn't do with it is go back and put everything back the way it was, because
right.
then we're
You
still
needed to shift.
basically on that path. Yeah.
You
So
needed to shift. Yeah.
we had to go through the gauntlet in order
Right,
to put ourselves
right.
in a better position. So the basic answer is resources, but the complex answer and the nuanced answer is that we have to understand the value of it given where we are in this timeline of transformation, and understanding that precious resources can become far more valuable when you've already done the hard work to gel and come together as a team and put the university in a position where it can now take far more advantage of opportunities when they come.
Wow. Well, Rick, I'm going to ask you in 3 months where
Yeah,
you
please
are. I'm going to
do.
call you up in 3 months and see how things are going. Can I give you a magic wand now? But I think your point, as difficult as I'm sure it was then, and as challenging as it currently is right now, given everything you're going through internally, but everything coming at you externally, certainly, you know, this idea of needing to transform and seeing and being able to see what the outcomes will be in a few months, I think is really well taken, and certainly anybody who watches and listens to this will understand and take that point, I think, to heart,
Thank you.
because everyone's going through, I think, something similar. Everyone's trying to figure out how they need to change to adapt because everything around us is changing so rapidly, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks,
is
Charlotte.
is there anything else that you were dying to tell me that I didn't ask you about and neglected to ask you about and you really want to share?
Yes. Thank you for asking that. One of the things we've learned here is that we don't have to necessarily accept the frameworks that are provided to us.
Right.
Um, there are some things that we are doing. So we took an old, dilapidated, rundown um, residence hall on our campus. We received some funding from the state to demolish it responsibly, which we did. And what we are going to do in its place is build an older adult living community on our campus,
Wow.
um, where the residents are going to have student ID cards. They're going to be able to attend classes. They're going to be able to go to our theater shows and music shows and athletic events and all the other stuff. They're going to be students, right? But they're just retirees. Those are things that a couple of universities have done. Arizona State is one that I've actually traveled to kind of learn more about it. And but they're done by universities typically that are far bigger than an institution like ours.
Right.
We've decided that, hey, even though we are a smaller institution, it doesn't mean that we can't take big swings. Let's do some super creative things. Let's just make sure that it's tailored to our environment and to our
Right.
circumstances. And so I think my message out there for education leaders is to challenge every assumption that you've been given and be willing to kind of push against frameworks that don't allow you to dream and dream big. Because I think any institution has within its purview the opportunity to dream and act big. The other thing I'll say is, and I'll just kind of come full circle. You said in one of your comments about, especially with what we're going through now in the transformation, that this process gives me as the president these extraordinary powers. I would caution anyone who is going through this that and this is from my military background, with extraordinary power comes extraordinary responsibility.
Responsibility.
Yeah, and so I would say to one, to use that power wisely and compassionately. Two is that while we need to make decisions that are for the betterment of the institution, all of those sharing governance partners, they are your partners even after this transformation. So almost like the U.S. State Department, you have to be thinking about what do we look like on the other side of this, and how do we make sure that the relationships aren't just not harmed, but they're actually
Right.
strengthened, so that on the other side of this, you still have a really solid collaborative group. Yeah, so I mean, those are just kind of words of wisdom. Last one I'll say. So I've been a president for 9 years now, 5.5 at Northern New Mexico, 3.5 here. I made a pledge to myself when I started in this job that I would never make a decision based on any negative emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Anger, jealousy, frustration, none of it. I can honestly say in those 9 years, I have held true to that standard. And I mean, of course, I the beholder, right? It's not just what I think; it's what everyone thinks. But I think if you keep that, if all of us as leaders in higher ed keep that as the North Star, and in the way we behave and the way we lead, then I think institutions are going to be in a better position long term. So just food for thought.
Food for thought, words of wisdom that every one of us should probably take away. I know certainly I should take that away and write it down. Don't act so quickly. Think
Right,
about it before you do blah blah
right,
blah.
right, right.
So, I mean that's a wonderful words of wisdom. I wish I had more time because I would dig into the retirement piece and why you did that and what the strategy was behind it and what you hope to kind of achieve, but you and I will do that another time. Thank you so much for sharing all of that, your time, your wisdom, your expertise, your perspective with us today. It's been such a super thoughtful and generous conversation. To our listeners, to our watchers, I know that this episode sparked ideas. I don't need to ask. I'm sure this episode sparked all of your ideas. It ideally and likely has really kind of affirmed some of your own experiences and your own challenges that you're dealing with right now. If you are a leader in higher ed, communications, marketing, presidents, finance, whatever it is, you want to have a conversation about what's going on at your institution, we'd love to hear from you. The truth is, these conversations are really great to sparking some wonderful ideas, and ideally, they will be a start to a shared roadmap for the future of our field. So let's get to work. Thank you so much, Rick.
Thank you, Charlotte. It was a real pleasure. Thanks so much.